over at daz3d.com, Horo and I have got this product out called Stylized Rendering, and what it is it's a tool set and a set of instructions that are designed to help you convert your renders into renders that are more like, well, either cartoons or vector graphics, that kind of thing. Well, if that's of interest to you, there's a set of examples of things that have been converted there. There's a list of what's in it, but I thought what would be more useful is for me to show you a simple conversion. The conversions can get more complicated depending on what kind of things you want to capture in the scene, like for example the clouds or reflections on surfaces and water. Those are complex things to convert because of the amount of information that's in them, but we'll do a simple one, and that's the scene I've chosen to convert. These were made using Wings 3D, and there's a tutorial on my YouTube channel that explains that, but I'll digress into that now. I'll just say that the first step I'm going to show you is simplifying the materials and the lighting. So obviously this is quite sophisticated materials, and I'm using HDRI lighting. It's one of Horo's HDRs, and I'm going to convert it. So what I'm going to do is reset the sky. I'm going to set these cylinders to, let's see, it's a transparent material at the moment. I'm going to simplify it. I'll reset it to default grey, then I'll change the ambient colour here to, I don't know, a sort of cyan colour, and the specular colour to the ambient colour. Set the specular halo up at fully white, turn the diffuse off, set the ambient at 50, and set the specularity up 100, and that creates this hard edge, which is part of the stylized process. So you don't need the product to do that. The instructions on how to set this up are all in the videos, but you could do this anyway. And now I've reset the sky, I'm going to turn the atmosphere off. I'm going to turn the global ambient to fully white, give a quick render for what we've got there, and then I'm going to set the atmosphere colour to the same blue as the shadow region, because I deliberately want to lose information so I can show you the benefit of outlining. Okay, these objects now, I'm going to get hold of those and modify the material on those. I'll reset it to default grey and set the ambient. I'll have, I don't know, about 60 green, full red, that kind of thing. So it's a stark contrast with the colours we've already got. Set the specular to the same value. Set the ambient to 50, the specularity to 100, and set the specular halo up to fully white to get that hard edge again. So now you can see that's what we've got. And then I'm going to position the sun around, I don't know, somewhere on this side, so we're really losing quite a lot of information. So you can see now you could know very little about the model in this area. You don't really know where these are running. You've got one or two clues, I suppose, but not a great deal. There you go. Right, so that, I'll just render that out, is going to be the colour information for my scene. So that's just rendered, file, save as, and I'll call that colour. The next thing is to capture some kind of distance information from the camera. Now, in Bryce, there's a built-in function which we can use in this case because there is no transparent layers in between us and the objects. There's no reflections we want to catch, and we're not trying to get the sky, so we can just use a distance mask. Also, I want to turn off 48-bit dithering because I'm going to use an export option. So when I export this, I need the maximum amount of information from the height map I'm going to get. So I'll turn the document setup up so I've getting a bit more higher resolution, and then give that a render, and it should give me a grayscale render. Now the difficulty is in getting this information to the terrain editor, which is part of the process and is involved in the tools. So we'll come to that in a second. I'll just get this exported. Export image, I need to export it as a TIFF, and it needs to be 48 bits per pixel. And I'll just save that. As I say, this has gone over in more depth in the product itself. I'm just showing you the process being done. What you see here is Windows thinking about recognizing this as a TIFF. I don't know why this occurs. The next step, this TIFF can't be read by the terrain editor natively. It needs to be converted into a 16-bit grayscale image. We've got all the information there, but the terrain editor won't accept it. Horo has written, for the PC node, this little program, and what it does is it converts the height map. So if I open the TIFF, and hopefully now it'll recognise it's a TIFF, I can then save it. I'll give it the same name, but I'll prefix that name by the letter C, so I know which one's been converted. And that this is just the conversion process. You can see it's fairly quick, at least on my PC. Obviously it all depends on the power of your PC as to how quick that goes. Right, so I've got our height information and I've got my colour information. Now if I go to the scene files, this is in the steps, I can pick out from here various examples that I can utilise to do the conversion depending on what effect I'm looking for. So if I was going for glowing outlines, I'd use this one, but as it happens I'm going for this effect here, which is fairly basic outline, a bit of hatching and some colour. That the colour, as you've seen, is provided by me, but the way it's placed within the scene you have choices over that, as I'll just now quickly demonstrate. So here's my example. This is the hatching plane, that's the isometric lens, this is the light source, and this is the terrain. So this terrain needs the height map that I've just generated, so I use the picture button there and find the one with C in front of it, and that should open fine. And at the moment the background points, the high points, are light, so if I want that to be the other way up I can just invert it. So now I've got it that way up, and the reason for doing that, I know in advance, is because I want the hatching in the background. This height control emphasises the lines, so if I make the terrain taller I get outlines on more of the intricate geometry, and if I compress it then I get less outlines. And if I smooth the terrain, for example, that thickens the outlines. Before I can preview this image though, I need to modify the material on the terrain, which is done quite simply by bringing in the pre-prepared image instead of the one that came with the file, and switch to the camera view and give it a render. So there you go. Fairly quick, simple process. I tried to keep it short. I was trying to get under 5 minutes, but I couldn't quite manage it. But you can see now that even though that is the same colour as the background was, the hatching, which is overlapping the edge slightly, so if that's an issue I can just move it further into the background. Okay, the hatching now has lightened the background in a very simple way, just by putting these dots in it, and the outlines separated the hatching from the background, and they've also filled in these areas which would otherwise have just been plain colour. So that is a very straightforward, simple conversion of the scene I showed you to start with. I suppose I should find that. This one into, oops, get this round the right way around, this one into that. So I hope you found that interesting, that you will consider purchasing our product if you're interested in converting your renders into stylized renders.